श्री राम जय राम जय जय राम ओम 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 श्री राम जय राम जय राम ओम श्री राम जय राम जय 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 राम ओम श्री राम 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 जय जय राम जय जय राम ओम श्री 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 राम जय राम श्री राम जय जय राम ओम 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 श्री राम जय श्री राम जय जय राम
हरि ओम हरि ओम हरि ओम
जय जय राम श्री राम जय जय राम श्री राम जय जय राम हम ये वहाँ पे श्री राम जय जय राम जय जय राम श्री राम जय जय राम
श्री राम जय जय राम ओम 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 श्री राम जय 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 राम ओम
श्री राम जय राम जय जय राम
श्री राम जय राम जय जय राम ओम
जय राम
श्री राम जय राम जय जय राम ओम श्री राम जय राम जय जय राम. Hari Om to everybody.
हरि ओम प्रणाम स्वामी.
What is to be shared today?
प्रणाम स्वामी जी.
Pranam, pranam.
Swami, just about Vimalananda ji in ashram.
Who?
Vimalananda Mataji's visit,
Huh?
just he wants, just.
Nothing, no special. She came for some program in Kannur. She used to come here, so she wanted to spend some time. Actually, she was not interested in any Satsang program. She wanted to take some rest, so we requested them to share some thoughts, that's all.
Hari Om, Hari Om, Hari Om.
What is it that is to be shared today?
Swamiji had a talk on Gandhiji and his opinions on different aspects earlier. Today it is his choice, Swamiji's choice.
We were reading a few portions from a small compilation named Pathway to God. Nobody will be able to go through his entire writings, but one Deshpandeji was kind enough to cull out various writings of Gandhiji, and he brought it out in a small book called Pathway to God. It is concise, at the same time specific, at the same time being the spiritual children of Papa, we may be able to find lot of similarities there, the way in which it is presented. Absolutely it is on the impersonal aspect, but at the same time the personal aspect is not belittled, it is given its own importance, and he was a great votary of Ram Nam, and his Ram stood for the Atma Ram, and that is why the other day we read this. What was it that you remember about him?
He enshrined Ram Nam in the heart. How to enshrine Ram Nam in the heart?
We will read out power of God's name. Rama is the strength of the weak. This strength is not to be obtained by taking up arms or similar means. It is to be had by throwing oneself on his name. Rama is but a synonym of God. You may say God or any whatever other name, but the moment you trust not but him, you are strong. All disappointment disappears. Ramnam is an alchemy such as can transform the body. The conservation of vital energy has been likened to accumulated wealth, but it is in the power of Ramnam alone to make it a running stream of ever-increasing spiritual strength, ultimately making a fall impossible. The conservation of vital energy has been likened to accumulated wealth, but it is in the power of Ramnam alone to make it a running stream of ever-increasing spiritual strength, to convert the vital energy into a spiritual strength, ultimately making a fall impossible. Just as the body cannot exist without blood, so the soul needs the matchless and pure strength of faith. This strength can renovate the weakness of all man's physical organs. That is why it is said that when Ramnama is enshrined in the heart, it means a rebirth of man. This law applies to the young, old, man and woman alike. Only when we read this and we try to understand his life, every word of his has been actualized in his life. He says, just as the body cannot exist without blood, so the soul needs the matchless and pure strength of faith. This strength can renovate the weakness of all man's physical organs. The other day we were mentioned, no? If we remember right, he landed from South Africa in 1906 or something like that. Till he dropped the body in 1948, 30th January. Say, we can say this 40 years or 42 years. We have never heard Gandhiji being admitted to any hospital. He was very much with various types of activities, not only freedom movement. But he was essentially a man of God. So we don't have to compare him with any other social reformer. His reforms were part of his sadhana. Freedom movement was a part of his sadhana. Everything was a part of his sadhana. But we now understand that when he says, this strength can renovate the weakness of all man's physical organs. That is why it is said that when Ramnama is enshrined in the heart, it means the rebirth of a man. And when we go through it again and again and look at his life, we are thoroughly convinced, because he was also like all of us, He was not just dropped from the sky. He was born to a father and mother, had the same education. He was also a grihastha. He was also a professional. And whatever he said, did, talked, everything was open. Nothing was hush-hush. So we can verify whatever he has said, whether it is possible or not. Only after experimenting, he gave it to expression. That means every word that has come out of his experience, just like Papa. Probably that is why Papa found the moment he saw Gandhiji at a distance in 1920, he said that was the first spiritual touch, spiritual turn to the spiritual life. That was his first touch. And that is how Ramnam he started. Ram, Ram, Ram. We all know he switched over to Khadar. He was spinning. Somewhere we also remember he was also there for some time in the freedom movement, for a short time. So, and he has also mentioned in the Inquest of God that he was not only a reader, but he was also plumbing deep into the depths of Gandhiji's approach to life and spirituality. Young India and ethical religion, When we were cleaning, we don't exactly remember where, then we saw Young India editions from 1924 onwards. So Gandhian thoughts had influenced him a lot. And the first and foremost thing is, we now, when we try to compare, Gandhiji was not following any tradition, Papa was not following any tradition. Gandhiji was a great votary of truth, votary of Ramnam. Papa was also a great votary of Ramnam and truth. Gandhiji did not withdraw himself from the common run of life and stayed in a cave. No, Papa also did not. He was very much with the society. He made a deep study of Bhagavad Gita and many of the scriptures. But at the same time, he was not confining himself to the scriptural knowledge, textual knowledge. Same thing with Papa. Whatever has been provided by the Lord for them to experiment, they experimented and brought it out and found later that the theme is tallying with what is enshrined in the scriptures. For example, he said, go to the origin in Papa case. He never quoted Bijam Mam Sarvabhutanam. When he said the life is the expression of Atman, is the word he used. Later on, when we go through the Bhagavad Gita, we find Jivanam Sarvabhuteshu. Like that, anything and everything we find. Gandhiji also gave a lot of importance for Srimad Bhagavad Gita and Upanishads. But he was not quoting, The textual knowledge, unlike us, we try to learn textual knowledge first. And to some extent, unfortunately, what happens is we keep ourselves aloof from the common run of life. Unknowingly. To us, in our mind, there is a clear-cut divide between spiritual and worldly. But in their case, we find there was no divide at all. One reason could be this: they did not follow any traditional form, they did not join any organization, they were not crowding around a guru. So everything they concentrated upon going within, seeking guidance from within, correcting ourselves whenever we go wrong. Always, have unshakable faith in God. Unshakable. And both of them they were fully depending upon remembrance of God through Ramnam. Who can declare like Gandhiji? Nobody can declare for that. Placing my hand on my breast, I can say that not a minute in this 24 hours goes without remembering him. That particular word, very touching. He says, my Rama is not the historical Rama. He is the eternal, unborn, one without a second. Him alone I worship. I have said that to take Ramnama from the heart means deriving help from an incomparable power. There is no doubt whatsoever that Ramnam contains all the power that is attributed to it. No one can, by mere wishing, enshrine Ramnam in his heart. Untiring effort is required, as also patience. What an amount of labor and patience have been lavished by men to acquire non-existent philosopher's stone. Surely God's name is of infinitely richer value. With my hand on my breast, I can say that not a minute in my life am I forgetful of God. That is why even when you were shot, you could remember. Hey Ram. That means he has also said that though not in the lips, Nama was always in the heart. So every now and then when we go through that, it charges, inspires us. There are many such portions where we find a lot of similarities between Papas and Gandhijis. Seeing God face to face is to feel that He is enthroned in our hearts, even as a child feels a mother's affection without needing any demonstration. See the way in which it is explained. Does a child reason out the existence of a mother's love? Can he prove it to others? He triumphantly declares, it is. So must be with the existence of God. He defies reason. But he is experienced. Let us not reject the experience of Tulsidas, Chaitanya, Ramdas, and a host of other spiritual teachers, even as we do not reject that of mundane teachers. This is not a moment when I do not feel, there is not a moment when I do not feel the presence of the witness, capital W, you know, and God, whose eye misses nothing and with whom I strive to keep in tune. If I did not feel the presence of God within me, I see so much of misery and disappointment every day that I would be a raving maniac and my destination would be Hooghly. What is the vision of God? It does not mean seeing something with the physical eye or witnessing a miracle. Seeing God means realization of the fact that God abides in our heart. The yearning must persist until one has attained this realization and will vanish upon realization. Realization is the final fruit of effort. God is there in the tabernacle of the heart. We cannot see God with these eyes. God is spirit without body and is therefore visible only to the eye of faith. If there are no evil thoughts troubling our mind, no fears, but constant cheerfulness in our heart, that is an indication of God's presence in ourselves. Indeed, He is there at all times, but we fail to notice His presence as we have no faith and thus undergo much suffering. When once we have cultivated real faith, calamities cease to upset us. One who looks upon the universe as various facets of God will certainly have the beatific vision. All our knowledge and spiritual exercises are fruitless so long as we have not had this vision. And in a simple way he says, when I admire the wonder of a sunset or the beauty of the moon, my soul expands in worship of the Creator. I try to see Him and His mercies in all these creations. The divine music is incessantly going on within ourselves. But the loud senses, sense objects, Our mind runs after the sense objects through the sense organs. And that sound does not make us hear the divine music. That means we are not aware of His presence. So he says the divine music is incessantly going on within ourselves. But the loud senses drown to the delicate music, which is unlike and infinitely superior to any we can perceive. With this inner light, corresponding with the promptings of the smaller inner voice, then the flash is a mark of inspiration. You all might be remembering about the famous bhajan, Vaishnava Janato. No? We always remember the moment we think about Srimad Bhagavad Gita, what comes to our mind is the 12th chapter first. Later on we came to know that Gandhiji wrote commentaries on Bhagavad Gita. He named it as Anasakti Yoga and he started with the 12th chapter. Why, in beautiful 8 slokas, the Lord is bringing out who is my dearest devotee. Qualification to become a devotee. And it covers everything. A righteous life, morally, ethically, spiritually perfect life. At the same time, not divorcing oneself from any field of activity. Adveshta sarvabhutanam maitra karuna evajana. So that means anything, spirituality linked with workaday life, daily life. That has been the style of Gandhiji's. He was not treating spiritual values totally different from the common run of life. When Papa used to mention this all indwelling and all pervading reality, in every aspect, not in a selected or Papa's quotation you might have heard many a time from us, behold divinity in every aspect of this world, Leela. Verily it is He who is at play in all beings and creatures. Everything, persons, objects, situations, anything and everything. So that means there is no divide between worldly and spiritual. And we all know that after closely associating with Papa's thoughts, watching Mataji's life, we know that ultimate goal to be scaled is to reach a state where there is absence of otherness. And we find in their life absence of otherness. Nobody is another. The summit of spiritual practices. So they like that, when we take it as a project, probably many we may be able to unearth. Anything else? Every now and then going through their biographies will definitely charge us, Whenever we feel our morale is down, to go through the biographies of masters who had implicit faith and who had scaled the heights and got out of the chain of me and mine in every respect. Many of us may be feeling that we are almost free from me and mine, but in their case, 100%. There was no zero vested interest. That can come only when we identify on a larger dimension, not on a small dimension. Actually, they give us what true spirituality is. Every moment of our life, how to bring in. When Papa said, spirituality that cannot be applied in actual life is no spirituality. Spirituality that cannot be applied in actual life is no spirituality. God is in the world and is acting through every one of us. God realization does not mean disappearing into some unknown realm beyond the world. True spirituality consists in our living in this world, moving in it, serving all beings, all the time being conscious of the divine within us and everywhere around us. So Papa has put it in a capsule form so that we can remember this always. Whenever unknowingly we feel there is a divide, immediately, this word will come. Spirituality that cannot be applied in actual life is no spirituality. God is in the world and is acting through every one of us. God realization does not mean disappearing into some unknown realm beyond the world. True spirituality consists in our living in this world, moving in it, serving all beings, all the time being conscious of the divine within us and everywhere around us. So when somebody made a mention about Gandhiji, all these things came out. That is the plus point of the Mahatma's life. One word, it triggers a series of train of thoughts. Especially when we go a little more deeper into what they stand for. All started because enshrined in our heart. That word is something very, 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 very important. We would have failed or we have been failing, but still we can still try. The methodology, nobody can say we have to evolve our own methodology. But we know that we have to enshrine Ram Nam in our heart. And then, when we keep on trying, something will turn up. And like Papa, he also named it as subtle and mysterious power. Gandhiji's truth is light, life, goodness, love. It is a mysterious power that holds together. He says, there is an indefinable mysterious power that pervades everything. I feel it, though I don't see it. It is this unseen power which makes itself felt and yet defies all proof, because it is so unlike all that I perceive through my senses. It transcends the senses. I do dimly perceive that while everything around me is ever changing, ever dying, there is underlying all that change a living power that is changeless, that holds together, that creates, dissolves, recreates. This informing power of spirit is God. Once again we will read. Now all these things will help us because we are chanting the name of Him. By Ram Nam we are chanting this. So more and more clarity about whose name we are chanting. There is an indefinable mysterious power that pervades everything. I feel it, though I don't see it. I feel it. It is this unseen power which makes itself felt, yet defies all proof, because it is so unlike all that I perceive through my senses. It transcends the senses. I do dimly perceive that while everything around me is ever changing and ever dying, there is underlying all that change a living power that is changeless, that holds all together, that creates, dissolves, recreates. This informing power of spirit is God. The truth is that God is that force. He is the essence of life. He is pure, undefiled consciousness. He is eternal. Yet, strangely enough, all are not able to derive, either benefit from or shelter in the all-pervading living presence. Electricity is a powerful force. Not all can benefit from it. It can only be produced by following certain laws. It is a lifeless force. Man can utilize it if he can labor hard enough to acquire the knowledge of its laws. The living force which we call God can similarly be followed if we know and follow His law, leading to the discovery of Him in us. God is an unseen power residing within us. There are so many powers lying hidden within us, and we discover them by constant struggle. Even so, we may find this supreme power if we make diligent search with the fixed determination to find Him. My God does not reside above. He has to be realized on earth. He is here, within you, within me. He is omnipotent, omnipresent. You need not think of the world beyond. If we can do our duty here, the beyond will take care of itself. We'll again read that, because we need this background while chanting God's name. There is an indefinable, mysterious power that pervades everything. I feel it, though I do not see it. It is this unseen power, UNP capital, which makes itself felt and yet defies all proof, because it is so unlike all that I perceive through my senses. That means it cannot be objectified. It transcends the senses. That's why it's called mysterious power. Papa added one more word, subtle and mysterious power. That's it. I do dimly perceive that while everything around me is ever changing and ever dying, there is underlying all that change a living power that is changeless, that holds all together, that creates, dissolves, recreates. This informing power of spirit is God. The truth is that God is the force, F capital. He is the essence of life. He is pure. He is pure, undefiled consciousness. So life, consciousness. He is eternal. And yet, strangely enough, all are not able to derive, either benefit from or shelter in the all-pervading living presence. Electricity is a powerful force. Not all can benefit from it. It can only be produced by following certain laws. It is a lifeless force. Man can utilize it if he can labor hard enough to acquire the knowledge of its laws. The living force, which we call God, can similarly be followed if we know and follow His law, leading to the discovery of Him in us. The living force, which we call God, can similarly be followed if we know and follow His law, leading to the discovery of Him in us. God is an unseen power residing within us. There are so many powers lying hidden within us, and we discover them by constant struggle. Even so, we may find this one supreme power if we make diligent search with the fixed determination to find Him. My God does not reside above. He has to be realized on earth. He is here, within you, within me. He is omnipotent, omnipresent. You need not think of the world beyond. If we can do our duty here, the beyond will take care of itself. God lives, not as we. His creatures live, but to die. But God is life. Therefore, goodness and all it connotes is not an attribute. Goodness is God. Goodness conceived as apart from Him is a lifeless thing and exists while it is a paying policy. So are all morals. If they are to live in us, they must be considered and cultivated in their relation to God. So when we see somebody is compassionate, somebody is loving, somebody is sacrificing, somebody is selfless, if we only view it from the individual to individual, our gratitude, our appreciation, our reverence goes to that individual. We don't bring in God. This is a very important point for all of us. This is what Gandhiji highlights. If we don't bring in, goodness is God. If we don't understand goodness is God, we will say goodness is to that person. No? Goodness conceived as apart from Him is a lifeless thing, exists while it is a paying policy. If they have to live in us, they must be considered and cultivated in their relation to God. We try to become good because we want to reach and realize God. All the dry ethics of the world turns to dust because apart from God, they are lifeless. Coming from God, they come with life in them. They become part of us, ennoble us. The practical hints for all of us in our daily life. Practical hints. Even while doing seva, if we don't bring in that dimension, we get frustrated of time. We would have been leading a selfless life. But if we don't think that God has provided the field, God has provided the prompting, God has provided the faculty or expertise, then I do it as a seva, social service, Then after my body becomes worn out, I become a frustrated person. But if I keep on connecting myself with God, God gave me the field, God gave me life, God gave me the sensitivity to react, and God gave me the wherewithal. How blessed am I? This is what Gandhiji says. That is why in every act he will say that. People may say that I am doing, that word is also there. I am here to serve no one else but myself, to find my own self-realization. Through the service of these village folk, man's ultimate aim is the realization of God, and all his activities, social, political, religious, have to be guided by the ultimate aim of the vision of God. The immediate service of human beings becomes a necessary part of the endeavor, simply because, the wonderful word, the only way to find God is to see Him in His creation and be one with it. See the practical approach. The immediate service of human beings becomes a necessary part of the endeavor simply because the only way to find God is to find Him in His creation and be one with it. This can only be done through one's country. I am part and parcel of the whole, and yet I cannot find Him apart from the rest of the humanity. My countrymen are my nearest neighbors. They have become so helpless, so resourceless, so inert that I must concentrate on serving them. And next word, If I could persuade myself that I should find him in Himalayan cave, I would proceed there immediately, but I know that I cannot find him apart from humanity. Puja Swamiji one day casually wrote this. It's spontaneous. You cannot love God without loving a man. We need not analyze so many things. Simple, no? If I could persuade myself that I should find him in Himalayan cave, I would proceed there immediately. But I know that I cannot find him apart from humanity. And that is why he declared that, no, I am striving for the kingdom of heaven, which is spiritual deliverance. For me, the road to salvation lies through incessant toil in the service of my country and my humanity. I want to identify myself with everything that lives. I want to identify myself with everything that lives. In the language of the Gita, I want to live at peace with both friend and foe. My patriotism is for me a stage in my journey to the land of eternal freedom and peace. Thus it will be seen that for me there is no politics devoid of religion. They subserve religion. Politics bereft of religion is a death trap because they kill the soul. A life of service must be one of humility. He who could sacrifice his life for others has hardly time to reserve for himself a place in the sun. A life of service must be one of humility. He who could sacrifice his life for others has hardly time to reserve for himself a place in the sun. Inertia must not be mistaken for humility, as it has been in Hinduism. True humility means most strenuous, constant endeavor, entirely directed toward the service of humanity. God is continuously in action without resting for a single moment. If we should serve him or become one with him, our activity must be as unwearied as his. There may be momentary rest in store for the drop which is separated from the ocean, but not for the drop in the ocean which knows no rest. The same is the case with ourselves. As soon as we become one with the ocean in the shape of God, there is no more rest for us, nor indeed do we need rest any longer. Our very sleep is action, for we sleep with the thought of God in our hearts. This restlessness constitutes true rest. This never-ceasing agitation holds the keys to peace ineffable. This supreme state of total surrender is difficult to describe, but not beyond the bounds of human experience. My own experience has led me to the knowledge that fullest life is impossible without an immovable belief in a living law, in obedience to which the whole universe moves. A man without that faith is like a drop thrown out of the ocean which is bound to perish. Every drop in the ocean shares its majesty and has the honor of giving us the ozone of life. It is easy enough to say, I do not believe in God. For God permits all things to be said of him with impunity. He looks at our acts. Any breach of his law brings with it not its vindictive, but its purifying, compelling punishment. God's existence does not need to be proved. God is. If he is not felt, so much the worse for us. When we go through such words, if anything touches and kindles in everybody, you can share. Spirituality in everyday's life, daily life. Can't see. Feeling. Feeling is an expression of God. Thought is not an expression of God. Because feeling cannot be explained, It is the experience. That's why feeling of His presence. Because He is a mysterious power, because of which the feeling takes place. So He cannot be objectified. So if all these things are there in our mind, by constantly, repeatedly reading, assimilating, contemplating, reflecting, then the Nama chanting will definitely help us to travel along on those lines. And in spite of all its activities, you should know. So he was also simultaneously developing this along with his activities. Anybody who visits Sabarmati, Sevagram, they will find that. Every Monday he observes Maun and very strict taskmaster in all moral ethical values. Many people may differ at the worldly level, some of the acts of them. But to him, he had no vested interest. To him, he was always reveling in that. And whatever he was prompted, he was acting. Total subservience to God, surrender to God. And he felt always safe in his hands. God made him to take certain decisions, adopt certain type of life, which may not,
when people make wrong statements about Gandhiji, how should we react? Means how should we proper reaction?
Because they would not have gone deep into it. No. On the surface level, there may be something on which we may not be able to understand him. But if we go deep, we will, because God has not prompted them to go deep. Anybody, not only Gandhiji, anybody. Why some people came and wanted to do away Mataji's life, create confusion. We cannot say that. It's all God's will. Similarly, those who have not understood his life, they may not know. But in our case, Papa had made it very clear. His own statement in one of his articles, very, very touching article about Gandhiji. Bapa's words. To introduce the world famous figure, Mahatma Gandhi, to the reader would be to attempt at exhibiting the sun with the help of a taper light. For the Mahatma's name and life have become household words among the people in every part of the globe. When dealing with the life and teachings of great saints like him, our task is not to assume the attitude of a critic, but to pay our wholehearted homage to their spiritual greatness. Mahatma Gandhi, in whatever spheres of life his activities have flowed, is essentially a man of God, a man whose supreme power and virtue lie in his magnificent influence in awakening humanity to the eternal verities of life and leading it on to the highest height of moral and spiritual culture. It is well known that Mahatma stands for the cult of non-violence, which he holds forth, just as Yudhishthira in days of yore did, as the highest principle of human life. Both East and West have recognized in him a divine messenger of peace upon this earth, which, as we see, is rent with strife, dissension, and war. It is not an exaggeration to say that the impact of the Mahatma's godly life has influenced and transformed millions of souls, both young and old, of all nations and races of the world. Sri Krishna in the Gita says, "Wherever the splendor of greatness is, there I am relieved." Among the outstanding luminous souls of the day, Mahatma Gandhi is the very incarnation of divine light and peace. His rigid asceticism, his uncompromising adherence to the creed of Ahimsa, his one sole aim of bringing about peace and harmony among the warring people of the world, are things that have placed him on a lofty pedestal for adoration, as a unique and dazzling ideal for everyone to follow. The Mahatma's phenomenal fame has spread to every corner of the earth, and his mighty influence wields the heart of a great part of mankind. Yet, as an egoless and innocent child, he is so simple, so unassuming, so oblivious of his exalted status. We can only pray that his thrilling message of goodwill, love, and brotherhood may enter into the recesses of all human hearts in the world and dispel from it every passion and impulse that seeks to raise the dust of chaotic wars that spell disaster to and destruction of the human race. That is why you see people who came for the G20, all the head of the nations who participate, they all went and paid their respects to the Mahatma in Rajghat. It was a great, great sight for all of us to see that. Even if it be for 1 minute. Anyhow, so ours as a spiritual aspirant, ours is to draw inspiration from all these masters. To the extent possible, we try in our own way. We may fail, we may forget, but doesn't matter. We try to understand their philosophy, and through that philosophy, if we understand their life, there won't be any confusion. If we see them as an individual, then the confusion will definitely come. Many things, even with all Mahatmas, people may have differences. But if we view it from that angle, another perspective, then the whole thing will become clear. So we pray for him, for facilitating opportunities for us to know about the greatness of these Mahatmas. Please help us in our spiritual life, in our spiritual journey, drawing inspiration from all these, the life of Mahatmas. So they have translated this philosophy in their very life. It gives us an assurance. Our faith gets really concretized. Otherwise, you may say it's a textual revelation. But here we find it's an experiential revelation. So we try to approach that with that spirit. At a different level, we may not be able to go along with it. But definitely on the higher level, we may be able to fully derive the benefit. Hari Om. Om Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram Om Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram Om. Ram Om, Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram Om.
Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram Om. Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram Om.
Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram Om.
Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram Om.
Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram Om. Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram Om. Om Shri Ram, Jai Ram. Hari Om, Hari Om, Hari Om, Hari Om.
Namaskaram, Swamiji.
Namaskaram, Namaskaram.
Hari Om, Swamiji.
Hari Om, Hari Om. Hari Om, Hari Om. Hari Om, Hari Om.